Hi everyone. Here is a quick correction from our January 12th, 2021 webinar.
Welcome to State Program Planning for 2021 to 2023. This is an introduction to program planning for our local leagues, units, and members at large. I am Marie Gauthier.
And I'm Susan Millinger.
And we are the co-chairs for the program planning for the 2021-2023 biennium. For the big picture of state program planning, we do this every winter, usually in January or February. Local leagues, units, and members at large take part. And it's discussions and responses to the League of Women Voters of the United States and our state league programs. We alternate years for those. In 2020, we responded to National's proposed program for the biennium of 2020 to 2022, which was adopted at National Convention this past June. This year, we will be responding to LWVMA's proposal for the biennium of 2021 to 2023. The end results of our process of program planning will be adopted at this June's state convention, which will be virtual. Some local leagues will discuss their own local program at the same time as they discuss the state program.
The key date to remember is that by March 25th, local leagues, units, and members at large should submit their action priority and goal recommendations to the state league.
We're starting out with a just general introduction to state program planning and to program planning as a concept. I don't know about any of you, but when I'd been in the league quite a few years before I finally realized that state program planning and local program planning were not about planning events. They were about planning the group of issues having to do for the state with state government issues that we were going to focus on for the next biennium, that our program, that action and our action and advocacy would focus on. Local program, therefore, focuses on local issues. Here's the definition of program in our bylaws, in state bylaws. The program of LWVMA shall consist of those state governmental issues chosen by the convention for concerted study and action or concurrence. All action shall reflect and uphold the principles of the organization. And there we have where you can find it in LWVMA bylaws.
The state board sends a proposed plan of program to the local leagues, units, and members at large, asking them to respond to the proposal. And what we at the state board are asking the local leagues, units, and members at large is, do you approve of the proposed priorities and goals? Do you think some of these priorities or goals should be omitted or changed? Do you have additional priorities or goals to suggest? This year, we will also asking you to please select the 10 goals you consider most important. The state cannot give equal attention to all of these possible goals, so it is asking you to help the board choose the goals to emphasize. And please note that this list of priorities and goals is our attention. Usually, LWVMA proposes 5 or 6 priorities. This year, the first priority is a special one, focusing on the importance of incorporating diversity, equity, and inclusion in all our action priorities and goals. So first and foremost, we will develop an action plan to encourage understanding of racial justice issues by the Massachusetts Leagues. 4 goals follow. We will encourage the continued education of our local league members on fundamental aspects of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Utilize and implement tools provided by LWVUS DEI training modules and other applicable resources to ensure members understand and are committed to achieving racial equity. Assess our individual local league programming with Black people, Indigenous people, and all people of color, and other marginalized representatives in mind, to ensure diversity that represents the inclusion of all our community and further advances racial equity. And we'll work to create opportunities to meaningfully partner with Black, Indigenous people, and all people of color, and underrepresented members of our communities through inclusive engagement and community capacity building. As we advocate for the action priorities and goals accepted at convention or added as circumstances demand, we will always use the lens of DEI.
Here are the other action priorities we are proposing. Improving elections, informed, engaged, and authentic voters and civic education, climate emergency and sustainable environment, government for the people, justice. And here are the goals. Here are the goals that we are proposing underneath the different action priorities. This year, we're going to remind you throughout this event, this program, we're asking you to choose the 10 you feel and your league feels most important. Feel free to suggest goals that we haven't listed, and your final goal list of 10 goals should include the goals that you think should be added to the list that the State League is proposing. So under improving elections, the goals are to advocate for election reforms, including same-day voter registration, and making permanent vote by mail and other early voting measures with the improvements which have been identified. Another is to encourage correction officials to facilitate voting for eligible incarcerated people and to follow up on the results of the LWVMA ballot question process study.
Within our action priority of informed, engaged, and authentic voters and civic education, our action goals are to continue to encourage informed and active participation in government and understanding
I think we've lost Marie briefly. So understanding major public policy issues, ongoing actions include online voters guide, the Lottie E. Scharfman citizen education grants to local leagues, candidate forums, the student video contest, and civic trivia events. Marie, are you back yet? No. Another goal is to support civic education in schools, promoting the LWVMA civic education curriculum. Funding for civic education still needs to be secured, and some features of implementation don't begin until 2022. Marie would be changing the slide here, and Bryn, if you have access to it, perhaps you could until we get Marie back. We would be looking
just give us what slide number? Sorry.
It would be slide 12.
12. Okay.
Action priority, climate emergency and sustainable environment.
Okay.
Oh, thanks, Bryn. So here the action goals are to advocate for passage of comprehensive climate legislation that addresses the scope, scale, and urgency of the climate crisis, to track implementation of major comprehensive climate legislation, to support regional collaboration such as the Transportation and Climate Initiative, to work for improved public transportation as a way to decrease greenhouse gas emissions. Then the action goals for healthcare, to advocate for passage of comprehensive climate legislation that addresses the scope, scale, and urgency of the climate crisis, to track, wait a second, that doesn't look quite right. That looks like it should be, the action goals for healthcare should be to educate the public about healthcare coverage, to advocate for single-payer universal healthcare coverage legislation for all residents of Massachusetts, and to advocate legislation to strengthen and extend reproductive rights as needed. Here we go. This is still listed under Government for the People. The action goals for gender rights: to advocate for strengthened and extended rights for all LGBTQ residents of Massachusetts, to ensure that the goals of diversity, equity, and inclusion are applied to all marginalized groups. Education has its own section, to develop and advocate for strategies to improve educational access and learning experiences for marginalized communities, to reaffirm our commitment to affordable and accessible post-secondary education, to maintain education funding reform because pandemic has disrupted the funding. Action goals for meeting basic human needs: to establish partnerships with local organizations to improve access to healthy food and sustainable nutrition by focusing on resources that counteract food deserts, to advocate for affordable housing, to work to prevent cuts in spending on public transportation needed to enable all residents to reach jobs, grocery stores, and medical appointments. And lastly, among Government for the People, we have goals which fall under pandemic recovery: to advocate for coordination of resources to mitigate the societal and economic impact of the pandemic, to view the amplified and exacerbated inequities as an opportunity to examine and change laws, institutions, and conventions involved in the creation and perpetuation of these inequities, to prioritize aid and support to those in disadvantaged positions. The next action priority is justice. We have a collection of goals under racial justice. And here's Marie, who is back to help us with these, I hope. Marie? Still connecting. To take action to identify, educate, and advocate to eradicate systemic racism in the state of Massachusetts as it exists in education, housing, employment, healthcare, and every aspect of American life, since such racism and socioeconomic inequalities have marginalized, discriminated against, and harmed Black people, Indigenous people, and all people of color. To make applying a racial justice lens to examine both explicit and implicit racial justice implications a required step before legal approval of any proposed legislation, project, or report. To review and study the Massachusetts State Seal and motto in order to ensure Indigenous Americans are treated with respect. To support legislation and actions to ban public schools from using Native American mascots.
Susan, I'm back.
Good, thank you, Marie. Can you take over now with action goals criminal justice?
I'm very sorry.
Oh, it's nice to have you back.
So within our criminal justice, our action goals are to support legislation to reform sentencing, probation, and parole policies, invest in rehabilitative and reentry services, promote alternatives to incarceration, and to consider in all criminal justice legislative efforts how laws will address racism within the criminal justice and police systems. The State Board has sent the list of priorities and goals to all members of the Mass League so that you will have plenty of time to think about your preferences before your league or unit makes its group decision about the next biennium's program. Remember, we are asking you to pick the 10 goals you consider most important for the Massachusetts League to focus on in 2021 to 2023. And you may choose among those 10 to include goals that you are adding to the proposed list. So that can be within your 10. It doesn't have to be the 10 from everything we have listed.
Although priorities and goals are the main focus of the document which league leaders will get or have already gotten, there are other actions that you can propose for the State League. One of them, and they have to do with developing or changing positions. Positions are crucial to the League. All our education and political action and advocacy are based on our positions. We get new or change positions through, for one thing, a new study. This involves research by a state committee to provide a balanced view of the facts and issues on a public policy topic. Then a local study group works to prepare the issues to bring them to local members. Then local members meet to seek to reach member agreement by consensus. And finally, an approved study becomes a new position by a vote at convention.
What you should consider when proposing a new study is that state league studies must be limited to state level issues. You should check the existing positions, which can be found in National's Impact on Issues and LWVMA's Where We Stand, both of which are linked on our program planning page on the website. And to be certain, we have no current positions already on which to base action. And most studies do require 2 years to complete. And studies can't be completed successfully without the commitment of a team of volunteers, since they involve a lot of work. The level of member interest expressed is an important factor in the board's decision to recommend a particular study. Questions to consider before proposing a new study. Would a study of this issue result in a position that could be used to influence legislative or state government policy? Is this an issue on which legislative action is needed? Will this issue be timely when the study is completed in 2 or more years? Is this an issue that would attract participation from the community and our members? Is this an issue which could entice new members or increase the diversity of our participating members? Do other Massachusetts leagues share your belief in the importance of a particular study? And will your league be willing to get involved, including having some of your members serve on a study committee and make a commitment to study the issue?
Your league or unit, or you as a member at large, can propose a new study, or you can propose a restudy, a review and update of a position, which involves a study of part or all of an existing position to determine if changes are needed. If you would do that, if you would suggest a restudy, all the considerations and questions that apply to a new study apply to a review and update study. Concurrence, the last of the ways we can get a new position or change position, concurrence involves state leagues developing positions on issues by adopting positions of other states or local leagues, which have arrived at them after their own study process. If you were at convention in 2019, you may remember that the state Massachusetts League adopted a position that concurred with a position from Illinois on immigration, so that the Illinois immigration position became the Massachusetts position, updating the preceding position on immigration that the league held. If your league would like to recommend concurrence with another league's position, you need to include the following: the issue you are considering, as much information as possible on the concurrence being recommended, the name of the league which developed the position, and a copy of that position. Adopting a position by concurrence requires a 2/3 vote of the convention. We need to tell you that the state board and the state legislative action committee are not proposing any new studies or restudies or concurrences, but your league certainly can. Studies come about because local leagues advocate for them.
Some other notes about making decisions about program planning is that leagues and units have different ways of arriving at group decisions about program planning. Some local leagues have a special winter meeting for program planning for the state or national proposed program. Some leagues may have a meeting combining local and state national program planning, and others may use a board meeting to make the decision. Members at large may join a local league planning meeting or take their own counsel. And email discussion is always possible, especially now. There's also, most meetings are via Zoom. There is no official right way. Once you've attended your program planning meeting, or as a member at large, you've read through your information and have made your recommendations, you would fill out, in the local league level, there would be one person assigned to fill out the recommendation form, or at the individual members at large, each of you could fill out your own form, and you return those via email. You download the recommendation form from our website. It's on the program planning page. Complete the form using Word, type right into it and save it, and then email it as an attachment to program@lwvma.org. The response form must be submitted to us no later than March 25th, 2021. League and unit leaders and members at large received the guide by email. That went out last week, or you can find everything you need right on the website. Everything we sent out is also available right there on the program planning page.
So what's next after you turn in your program planning recommendation form? In April, LWVMA board develops program and action recommendations based on the input we've received from local leagues, local units, and members at large. And I think we have forgotten to add that members at large can either join an existing league to hold when it's holding its program planning meeting, or a member at large can turn in, as Marie suggested. You can depend on your own council and decide yourself what you would like to suggest. So by April, the league board develops the program recommendations and then sends them by May 14th. The league board distributes its program and action recommendations, as well as any of the non-recommended proposals, to the local leagues, units, and members at large. Then local leagues, units, and members at large have about 3 weeks. By the 4th of June, they may suggest changes or additions to the board recommended program to LWVMA. And I believe I have encountered the idea that if your league has a non-recommended proposal that you think should become a part of the program of the next biennium, there are ways to present it to the convention. And we can pursue that further, and you can write us so we can follow up on that. At the convention, which this year will be June 25th through 26th, members will vote to adopt the program for 21 to 23. Where to find the information online? There's a direct link. If you go to lwvma.org/member-resources/programs-planning, very easy to find. There you'll find all the materials you need: the 2021 guide to state program planning, the recommendation forms, which we sometimes call response forms for local leagues, units, and members at large, and a list of action priorities and goals, which every member has already received through email. In addition, there are the links to the National's impact on issues. Be sure to use the 2020 to 2022 issue, then that will be edition, and that will be found on our website. And LWVMA is where we stand. Again, you want to use the most recent edition, which is 2020, and you will find it on our website for complete and up-to-date public policy positions of the League.
Okay, so now we will take some questions. Can you hear me okay? I'm getting weird feedback on my end.
I can hear you, Marie, yeah.
Okay, so I see our first question is from Sarah Lubin. Apologies if I mispronounced your last name. For individuals, do we submit the form with our 10 priorities to the program email or to our local league, or both? Individuals, if you're a member of a local league, and correct me if I'm wrong, Susan, but individuals do not submit response forms to the program email. Individuals, members of their local league should attend a program planning meeting with their league and discuss it with your league leaders. And however the process of your meeting goes, the league leader will submit the priorities to the state league.
Right, and I hope I didn't cause confusion. It's only members at large who have the opportunity to submit their own list of priorities. Otherwise, every local leagues and units, as Marie said, you submit through your league leader.
If you're not aware, members at large don't belong to a local league either because they don't have a local league in their area, or because they might not be interested in pursuing local things. They might be more interested in statewide advocacy. So that is why members at large would submit individually, because they don't belong to a local league. So they can certainly join a local league for the purpose of discussion. It might be helpful to have other members to bounce ideas off of, but that's the difference. And you're welcome. We continue to, anybody who has other questions, please go ahead and put it in the chat.
Marie, I see we have a question. What is meant by authentic voters? Would you like to handle that one? Maybe Patty would.
That would be ideal for Patty.
Yes, Patty, please.
So I think what Karen is asking is during our 100th anniversary celebration, Danielle Allen referred to sort of expanding on the notion of the informed voter, which is actually my understanding is a league coined phrase, and expanding that into informed, engaged, and authentic voter. And what she means by that is this was in the context of her talking about it was very exciting in the presidential election because we had everyone in the electorate, all people from all backgrounds voted, and she was very, saying for the first time in history we had everyone in the electorate. And so I think what she means by that, by the authentic piece, is that it's everyone showing up from all backgrounds, all walks of life, and showing up as their authentic selves, the things they really care about, the things they're voting based on their experience and their story and that kind of thing. So I think that's, I'm probably not doing this justice, but that's where it comes from.
I see we also have a question. Do we choose our goals from the 30 bulleted ones? Well, you can choose them from the 30 bulletin ones, but you can also add your own. I would say many leagues may want to add one or more goals to the list, to say pick 8 from the bulleted ones and add their own. So that's completely up to your league. Any other questions?
Does government for the people include transparency?
Well, you should take a look at the website, at the league website, because the Legislative Action Committee has a nice statement about transparency on the website. And it perhaps would be better, more clearly discussed there than by us, unless you want to take a stab, Marie.
I think if you're looking for making a direction to the board about action goals, and you would like to include transparency as one of your recommendations, that it could be considered government for the people. If you're looking for where the position would be, where you would use that, yes. We're not here to tell you what you can and cannot suggest for your recommendations, as long as, and I'm pretty sure that does fall under government for the people. But I would definitely go refer to the Legislative Action Committee and also refer to where we stand, because those are pretty comprehensive. But that I would agree offhand that that's government for the people.
I agree. Any other questions? Well, yes, we had a big problem about the fact that everything the government does is or ought to be for the people. Yes. We just have a category, and this has happened before, that the board hasn't been quite sure what to name a particular category of things like healthcare and education and transportation. And it seemed most useful to name it government for the people, but you're right, it's all government for the people. Absolutely. Oh, we certainly hope so.
And as we said, you know, it's up to you to list your priorities. And what we've suggested are just suggestions that have been gathered from Legislative Action Committee and from the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. So it is rather larger than usual, but that doesn't mean you have to stick within the goals we've proposed. Anything your league or members at large consider a priority is what goes on your recommendation form.
It looks like Jane has her hand up, so I'm going to unmute her. Jane, did you have a question?
Oh, she's muted still.
Yeah, so I unmuted.
Maybe Jane, she's still showing up. Maybe she needs to unmute herself from here.
Yep.
Jane, you could also type it into the chat box. Or maybe she didn't mean to raise her hand.
Okay.
Oh, no. Does anybody else have any questions?
We have a lot of really experienced people who are attending this. Maybe some of them would have something they'd like to contribute that they feel we didn't cover well or didn't cover at all and should have, or just think it would be useful to tell people. Karen Price does.
Oh, yeah, Karen's hand's up.
Yeah.
Hello? Can you hear me? No.
Oh, hi.
Oh, we can hear Jane.
Yeah, hi, Jane.
I don't know why I've got this thing beeping at me. You? Okay. What should I push? Chat?
Okay. Well, you're speaking, so you can go ahead and speak your question.
I missed the first part of this, and I'm not sure whether anything about observing elections and perhaps changes.
I'm sorry, Jane, you're breaking up a little bit.
Yeah.
Probably going ahead and putting it in the chat would be useful so we could all hear it, because it's hard to hear you.
I hit chat, but nothing's happened. Maybe I ought to just get out of this.
Okay, well, we have, whoops, I just saw a new question in the chat. Maybe it's Jane's.
Karen, did you want to go ahead and?
Yeah, can you hear me now? Oh,
we can hear
look
you.
At that. There's our birthday cake. I don't think, I think you only gave me speaking privileges, not video privilege, but that's okay. I just wanted to say that this year with, you know, leagues are being called upon once again to make more, having a bigger selection of what to choose, which is great. And it's really a great opportunity to do state program planning this year, because we've always had trouble scheduling it. And I think during the pandemic, that tends to be a lot easier. And so we, in the past, have just done it at a board meeting, but I think we'll have a special session this year and really take a good look at the suggested goals and think about ones that we might add. So I just think it's actually a good year to do state program planning. That's all I had to say. Thank you.
Yes, I completely agree. It's been amazing. There's a lot of it's a hard time, but this accessibility has never been better. We're definitely learning all the things we can do virtually, and how many people can now participate in things if they do it via their computer. Though some of us have less robust internet connections than others. Go ahead.
Excuse me, Marie. I think I'm seeing Jane's question in chat. Putting these action priorities and goals within the context of this past week seems essential.
That's Adrian.
Please suggest ways to incorporate. Oh, I'm sorry. My chat does not enable me to identify who's saying things. I apologize.
That's okay. That one's Adrian.
So please, Adrian was suggesting ways to incorporate these action priorities and goals in the context of the past week. Yes, Adrian? That's a big question. And I don't know if, I don't feel prepared to suggest ways to do that. I think that certainly all the things that have to do with voting, our #1 mission, certainly relate to what's been going on this past week. And the meeting people's needs, the government's meeting people's needs is also essential, both in terms of the past week and in terms of the pandemic we're surviving. Marie, what would you add?
The racial justice aspect. You know, we've definitely seen front and center how justice changes based on who's the one doing the protesting. Hopefully that will, we'll see some more progress in that area, but we could definitely use a racial justice lens on what's been happening at the national level. And of course, the pandemic recovery continues to be an issue. What the events of the last week, how that will affect recovery efforts remains to be seen. I see a question from Mary Porter. Well, not so much a question as a comment. She's saying that in light of January 6th events and the many voters who apparently don't understand voting systems and processes, we may want to consider adult civic education on voting systems and processes. And that would be definitely something you could discuss with your program planning meetings. And if that's something you want to put on your response form, then it is definitely applicable.
We have a question here that may, if I understand correctly, come from Lucy. I'm not sure that's correct. But the question is, if a Massachusetts local league completes a position study with state and federal elections impact, would LWVMA consider a concurrence? Well, I don't see why you couldn't propose it, because the whole rule, concurrences can come from the study of a local league as well as the study of another state. Marie, what do you think?
Yes, you know, I believe we'll consider anything that comes through the proposal. Whether it's adopted also depends on all the factors we discussed about proposing a concurrence. And be sure when you're proposing it that you send us all the information that we requested in order to identify it fully. And so we know exactly what you're proposing. But thinking about what that means, so you'd want to be considering the issue. In particular, you're considering as much information on the concurrence that is being recommended, the name of the league which developed the position, and a copy of that position. And that adopting the position would require a 2/3 vote at convention. But it's certainly, you propose it, we consider it. And then if it goes through, then the entire, then it goes a step further. But we want to hear from the local leagues. We want to hear what your priorities are. So by all means.
I think it's also suggested that if you're proposing a new study or a restudy or concurrence, it's helpful in terms of being more persuasive to the state board if you can involve if you can find the support of other local leagues or units or members at large. If it's something that comes in from one league is important, something that comes in from a number of leagues is going to get more attention because people feel, well, there's more support there and there are more people to work on it there.
To take another example, it's not a concurrence, it was a ballot study. It was developing a new study, the ballot question study we did last time. Karen Price and the Needham League really spearheaded that and worked really hard. They developed a lot of support, and then they really took the lead and did the lion's share of the work in developing the materials for the local leagues to embark on the studies. So that's one of the things we're talking about when we say if you want to propose a new study or a restudy, to be sure that you're ready to lead the charge on that, because they're very valuable, and that's how we come up with new positions. But you'd want to be sure that we don't already have positions that apply to the particular issue, and you'd want to be sure that you're ready to help us conduct the study in a real tangible way.
Marie, did we get the question before, the comment before, that under voters and civic education, LWV may want to consider?
Yes.
We got that already? Okay, sorry.
Yes. That's okay.
And I'm seeing something else.
It's a comment from Karen. Yeah, to use the league leader.
Oh, right, to advocate for new studies, right?
But yes, it would need to be done early. It would need to be done now.
Mm-hmm.
if you want to have time to gather enough interest in order to submit your response recommendation form by March 25th. That's the sort of conversations you'd want to be having now or as soon as you can.
You'd have a good 2 months, so that would be good time.
Any other questions? Just leaving enough time for typing if there's typing happening. Well, we really appreciate everyone coming.
Sure.
This was a great discussion, and we hope that you are all taking as much information from this, and that we provided enough information for you. Any questions, you can feel free to email us. Go ahead, Susan.
No, I was just going to say that. Feel free to email us with questions. Thank you, audience. It's great to have you here.
And this is being recorded, so if you missed anything, it will be available to view soonish, and that information will go out as well. So you'll know when you can access it. And you can share it with your local leagues as well, all members who are interested in program planning, but maybe don't understand what that means. But this is a great opportunity for local leagues to really lead the way for what the State League is going to focus on in the next 2 years. Oh, welcome, Joanne. That's wonderful.
Yeah, that is exciting. Thank you.
We hope that there's a lot of new members participating. It's one of the first ways to have your voice heard. Well, thank you again.
Yes, thank you.
And have a good night.
Thank you to Bryn for hosting us.
Yes, thank you to Bryn, especially for taking on taking charge when I lost my internet. And thank you, Susan.
And thank you, Patty, for helping out. Thanks, Marie.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.